In this presentation, we will talk about the process of building and submitting your nursing clinical entry application. Nursing requires each student to view this application workshop once per semester, but serious students will appreciate its importance to them and use it as a reference whenever necessary. If you will approach your nursing application like a job application, making sure you understand exactly what's expected and how to maximize your points, then you will have done everything possible to enter nursing when it's time. We will provide an overview of the nursing clinical entry application process, describe when and how you can access your application in ETC, describe the new policy for allowing students to apply for both programs, explain how to finalize and then submit your application for nursing entry. Be sure to also watch Part 2 of the presentation for strategies on how to make your application competitive. In addition to viewing this presentation, be sure to download these helpful handouts for more detailed information and to use as a reference in the future. Entry into the clinical nursing program is competitive because there are more applicants each semester than available spaces or seats in the clinical program. 60 associate degree nursing students are accepted each August and another 60 in January. Typically, there are about 145 applicants competing for those 60 seats. Because of this, the application process uses a point system to rank applications. The top 60 application point earners gain entry into the program. For example, in a recent semester, the point range for the top 60 applicants was a low of 47 to a high of 64. You must have at least 38 points to submit your application. Practical nursing numbers appear on the next slide. You accumulate application points for things like the courses you've taken and the grades you've earned in those courses, your overall GPA, how well you perform on the TEAS entrance test, and a variety of other things. Be sure to watch Part 2 of this presentation to learn more about how you can best accumulate application points. You can continue to reply for each fall and spring entry if you do not receive entry into the program right away. "40 practical nursing students are accepted each August for fall entry. 24 practical nursing students are accepted each January for spring entry. Typically, there are about 125 applicants competing for those seats. In a recent semester, the point range for the top practical nursing applicants was a low of 46 to a high of 63. Just as with the ADN program, you must have at least 38 points to submit your application. So, how do you begin your clinical entry application? Well, believe it or not, as soon as you are admitted to Tri-County Technical College, construction on your application has begun. Well before you decide you're ready to submit the application, all of the foundational building blocks are automatically being assembled behind the scenes in our student information system. That's where your academic record is housed. Construction on your application starts right away. However, you can't actually access it until you meet the eligibility criteria required for submitting it, and you send in an online form to verify that you have viewed this presentation. The online form is found in the list of handouts, so be sure to watch for it. The eligibility criteria for submitting the application includes taking the TEAS entrance test, maintaining an acceptable GPA, and completing patient care training. Each of these is explained in more detail in separate presentations. As soon as you are granted access to your application, you should review it right away. This will give you time to verify all of the information and make any needed corrections. When you are eligible, you will view your application by logging into the ETC portal. Go into the Get Set tab, then clicking the link in the Plan My Schedule channel. Here's a short video showing you how to access the application.
Once you log on to ETC, you can find the tab marked Get Set, click there, and choose under Plan My Schedule your nursing clinical entry application. When you click to continue, you'll be taken to the question of whether you're attaching your background check receipt or not. A yes is worth 1 point. It needs to be attached to your application. Please check your information to identify you. Scroll down, review your information, make sure everything is correct, and at the bottom you'll find the points scored.
Again, as soon as you are eligible, be sure to view your application right away and begin the finalization process. These are 2 steps to finalizing your application. First, you will need to make sure the information on the application is correct. Even if you don't plan on submitting it right away, you want to allow time for any corrections to be made to your record. If you do need to make any corrections to courses you have taken or grades in courses, contact Marilyn, Angelie, and Student Records. If your credential from another school isn't showing when you view your nursing clinical entry application, you may contact Carol Welch in admissions for a review. This request must be made at least 1 week prior to the application deadline date. Beginning with the May 2012 application for Fall 2012 entry, a minimum of 38 points must have accrued for a student to submit the application. The criteria and instruction sheet handout outlines this process. The second step to finalizing your application is to click Answers on page 1. The first question is about the background check that is required by the nursing program. Before you submit your application, you will print out your background check receipt and attach it if you want the extra point. Question 2 allows you to select the situation that applies to your method of satisfying the patient care training requirement. After you have finalized your application, you may submit it. Beginning with the May 2012 application for Fall 2012 program entry, the submission policy is changing. A nursing student with access to both the Associate Degree Nursing and Practical Nursing applications may submit both. If the Associate Degree Nursing application does not result in the offer of a seat, the Practical Nursing application will be used as consideration for a seat in the Practical Nursing program for that student. The student will have the choice of accepting or declining the Practical Nursing seat if offered. Remember, to submit an application for either program, the student must have scored at least 38 points. When you are ready to submit the application, you will print it out and follow all of the steps for turning it in that are listed in the criteria and instructions handout. You turn it in person to Fulp Hall on the Pendleton campus. A student who wants to enter nursing clinicals in fall will submit the application between May 15th and May 31st at 5:00 p.m. A student who wants to enter nursing clinicals in spring will submit the application between September 1st and September 15th at 5:00 p.m. If the deadline falls on a weekend or holiday, the deadline becomes the next business day. Friday deadline is 2:00 p.m. Refer to criteria and instructions handout for details on when, how, and where to submit the application. After you submit your application, you will receive a confirmation email in your TCTC account within 2 business days of the nursing department receiving it. Then, approximately 2 weeks later, you will receive an email in your TCTC account notifying you of either acceptance or denial into the clinical program. Again, refer to the criteria and instructions handout for more details. In summary, your nursing clinical entry application is automatically built in our student information system beginning with your enrollment at TCTC. That's why making good choices in the courses you take and how well you perform in them is so important from the very beginning. You are eligible to access your application as soon as you meet the eligibility requirements for submitting it and you have verified that you watched this presentation. Students will get view access approximately 15 days prior to application dates. You will access the application online in ETC, finalize it, and then print it before submitting it. You will receive notification of acceptance or denial via your TCTC email account. You have completed Part 1 of the application workshop. Click the handout to the right called Verification Form. The submission of this form will satisfy the application workshop requirement. Please move on to Part 2 to hear about strategies for maximizing your point total.